Bexley Grammar, Scene 1, Take 1, action.
The origins of Bexley Grammar School date back to more than a century ago.
The site of the school was once occupied by a polo field and was earmarked as the ideal situation for a school as early as the 1930s.
It was not until 1952 that the council surrendered the land for the building of a new school.
Notice is hereby given that Kent County Council proposed to establish a new county secondary school for about 550 children, many of the age 11 to 18 at Bexley. The school will be known as Bexley Grammar School.
Bexley Grammar started its life in 1954 at the coeducational Erith Grammar School.
It was the job of the newly appointed head teacher, Francis Lefevre, who was tasked with building this new school from quite literally the ground up. Prior to the school opening, he was engaged in selecting pupils, appointing staff, as well as supervising installation of the equipment in the new building.
On the 13th of September 1955, the first pupils walked through the gates of Bexley Grammar School.
But when the gates of the school were opened, Bexley Grammar boasted a modest 154 pupils, one head teacher, 8 teachers, a single clerical assistant and a caretaker.
The Bexley Grammar School uniform was in fact the Erith Grammar School uniform, but with the blue skirts hastily substituted for a grey tunic for girls and later swapped to a blue shirt for boys.
It was not until Friday the 5th of July 1957, almost 2 years since the first Bexley Grammar School students had started their education, that the school was officially opened by the Right Honourable Viscount Howsham, the Minister of Education.
In September 1959, Bexley Grammar School saw its first sixth formers, most of them being boys and girls who spent their first year in Erith, some being transfers from other schools. Only 35 boys and girls made up the lower sixth. Today, Year 12 is made up of 226 students. By 1959, the school roll had grown from just 60 boys and girls to 591 people.
The school's first ever full-scale musical production did not take place until almost 20 years after its inception in 1973, Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore.
With 1975 came the announcement of Mr. Lefevre's intention to retire. It is in his honour that the Lefevre building was named in 1996, shortly before learning of the founding head teacher's death at age 83.
In 1976, a new head teacher was appointed. Mr. Jones came from Sale, near Manchester. At 10 a.m. on April 1st, 1977, Jones formally took possession of a new building at the school, naming it the Jubilee Building, after the Queen's Jubilee months before. Despite the opening of the new Jubilee Building, the recent expansion proved inadequate to house the number of students due to the new 5-form entry. The school's roll rapidly rose to 800 students. In July 1980, Mr. Jones drew awareness to the lack of attention to sixth form accommodation and eventually led to the PA to build a sixth form centre.
A band of volunteers, all members of the Parents Association, gave up evenings and weekends to see the project through, and by 1982 the project was complete. Theatrical performances remained central to the Bexley Grammar ethos, and in 1986, for the first time since 1969, the school put on 2 plays, The Real Inspector Hound and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
The big change was made in January of 1995 with the retirement of the head teacher Mr. Jones. Mr. McKinnon was appointed as the 3rd head teacher of Bexley Grammar School. Along with Mr. McKinnon's arrival, a new school motto was created, Praestantia Studere, which translates to Strive for Excellence, and the motto is still on our school badge today. In the following 2 years, a big landmark for the school was reached. We finally reached 1,000 students, with only 63 full and part-time teachers total.
In this decade, music was another big change in the school. Music recitals and concerts became more and more frequent and continue to this day. The most significant change at Bexley Grammar School in the new millennium was its new status of language specialism, which was introduced in 2002.
Languages are a really important part of life and learning at Bexley Grammar School, especially considering we now study the International Baccalaureate instead of A-levels after GCSE.
2008 was an important year for Bexley Grammar School. First, on the 18th of October, Bexley Grammar School was reported as outstanding by Ofsted. Secondly, it was the year Bexley Grammar School became a specialist school in science and mathematics.
It was one of Mr. McKinnon's deputy head teachers who succeeded him in the role of head teacher, and in 2008, Mr. John Welsh took leadership of the school. Mr. Welsh's tenure was one marked by his deep understanding of the school's culture, ethos and identity.
There was a full programme of sports fixtures, concerts and plays during the year, an art exhibition and the annual music production. As Mr. McKinnon was succeeded by one of his deputy heads, so too was Mr. Welsh by one of his, Mr. Stephen Elphick in 2014. Mr. Elphick oversaw the school's smooth transition to one which taught the International Baccalaureate exclusively from 2017 onwards. 2017 also saw the most recent addition to the Bexley Grammar School building. This new K block includes a purpose-built theatre where assemblies and drama lessons take place.
Of Mr. Elphick's one teacher once observed, where many head teachers were cutting drama from their curriculum, Mr. Elphick instead chose to build a theatre.
On the 31st of December 2019, the World Health Organization was informed of an unknown cluster of cases of pneumonia of no clarified cause in Wuhan City, China. The World Health Organization declared this as a public health emergency of international concern on the 30th of January 2020, and then announced it as a pandemic at the start of March 2020. And by the 20th of March, all schools were temporarily closed, except for key workers and children considered vulnerable.
Teachers were unsure how long COVID-19 lockdowns would last and therefore could not gauge whether a long or short-term solution was needed.
At BGS, all work for students would either be uploaded at the beginning of the week or the start of each day.
But everyone was unprepared for remote learning. Many families did not have the electronic devices for both parents to work on at the same time as children to complete their schoolwork on time.
From Monday the 8th of March 2021, students were allowed to return to school. As ventilation was a key requirement, all of the windows and doors needed to be kept open, so classrooms often looked more like an Arctic expedition than a 50-minute lesson. All of this was overseen by Mr. Elphick. The school community was genuinely surprised to hear of his decision to retire in April of 2023, and he remains fondly thought of by the students at Bexley Grammar School.
Welcome to Today and the Future. Now in 2023, BGS is a thriving school under the leadership of our newly appointed head teacher, Mr. Gilmore.
When students join the school, they are split into 6 houses. All of these houses compete for the coveted House Cup, which is a year-long competition to see who is the most successful house academically as well as in sporting competitions, as well as other extracurricular activities.
At BGS, the range of extracurricular activities begins early at 7:45 in the morning, continues during lunchtime and carries on right after 3:10.
We also have clubs in almost every subject. One exciting highlight is the annual Christmas concert and the annual musical. This is the school year's spectacular main showpiece, where dignitaries come to see it every year on the all-important gala night. The light, sound and everyone behind the scenes are a key element to the productions. Last year's musical was the astoundingly successful The Addams Family, and the buzz is already building for this year's musical Legally Blonde,